Yeah, so specifically March 16th of last year, 2025. It's a long day. Dallas and Birmingham and Texas and Alabama have one thing in common. We can have crazy weather. When it hits, it hits. So it was a day of tornado warnings and, tornadoes in the area all day. And we got through the day, and that night, literally about midnight, I actually just fell asleep on the couch because I just got through talking to the fire chief, and we thought we were in the clear. And my phone starts ringing, and get texts start going off, and I'm getting calls from our dispatch center that our new police building that we were building is on fire. And so I'm like, oh my goodness, right? And then patrol sends me some videos, and it's sure enough on fire. What had happened, it got struck by lightning, and the electrical cord had shorted that they left on the roof. The roofers did, and caught the roof on fire. So look, I get up and grab some clothes, and I head out the door about midnight, and it's been raining and storming all day, so the roads are wet. I got to get out there to see what's going on. So turn the blue lights on. We're headed down the road I always go to work, and probably 6-7 miles down the road, I start getting into a little more residential area. So I slow down just a little bit, and I say I want to be careful. The roads are slick. Well, I top a little rise, and when I top a rise, there's a ginormous oak tree had fallen across the road, and it had been marked yet. Literally storms had kind of just passed, and I hit that thing head on about 75 miles an hour. And thank goodness I'd slow down because I'd gotten into kind of a residential area. And when I'm telling you, I hit it head on, like you can't see an oak tree, that gray oak tree at night in your headlights, and hit it head on. Felt my Tahoe going to the back, thought I was going to flip. Knocked out to some degree. I don't think it was long. Come back fairly quickly. Sitting in the car, OnStar's going off. Literally there's smoke everywhere. And man, talk about pain. Had some pretty good pain right then. And I thought my car was on fire. Well, I'd only passed, look, it was midnight, right? There was nobody on the roads. I passed one light, and I thought there was a motorcycle coming at me, right, that I saw, because it was one light. It wasn't like headlights. Well, so I'm like, look, man, I may be hurt, but I'm not going to burn up. And I go take my seatbelt off, go to open my door. I can kind of get it halfway when I'm trying to open it with all the limbs. And here a lady run up beside me. She goes, don't move. Don't get out of the car. I'm an ER nurse. I need to stabilize your neck and your back. And I asked her, like, hey, what was my car on fire? And she's like, no, I don't think it's on fire. She goes, just there's a lot of smoke. I'm like, well, is there any flames? No, I don't see any flames. Then two of the guys showed up. I think they were just actually coming through the area to help clear the way from all the storms. And had some chainsaws. So she asked, they started trying to cut some limbs, and she said, you can't get out. And she said, do you have any towels in your car? I need to stabilize your neck. I said, ma'am, I don't. I said, there's probably some jackets in the back. And of course, all that had flown to the front. And, moments later, she come back. She said, well, let me try to find something. The back window had busted out. A lot of windows had busted out. And she come back, and she found a roll of duct tape in one of my jackets. So she wrapped my neck with my jacket, and she literally duct taped my forehead to my headrest. By that time, some fire department was getting there, police was getting there to kind of help me. Took 30, 45 minutes to get me out of the car. And I never saw the lady because, all the side curtain airbags were all deployed. But I knew, clearly I had duct tape on my head. She had helped me talk to her. I can tell you the way the voice sounds right now. As the incident progresses, I get out of the car, they get me on the stretcher. They get me to the hospital. My back was broken in 3 places, L3, 4, and 5, but my sternum was broke. Went to UAB trauma unit. I tried to talk them out of sending me downtown to the trauma unit. They're like, Chief, you got to go to the trauma unit, based on the accident. So they take me down there. Great people. Look, Dallas it's kind of like Parkway here. UAB trauma is significant. They're some of the best around. So took great care of me. Had to have surgery the next morning, and get through all this. Well, I'd like to find the people that helped me. That's just doing the right thing. So I have the firemen start reaching out, trying to find the ER nurse. Because, most firemen, they go to the ERs all the time. The ambulance crews, rescue crews do. We never could find her. Never, to this day, I hadn't found her. I hope she exists. Never been able to find her. But what's more interesting is some of the firemen who were trying to help me, they had a text message to the officer who worked my wreck. And the text message was like, yeah, and he said, during the chaos of the scene, he said, I turned around to get her information so I would have it, and she was gone. And he said, it's like she just disappeared. And he said, what's even weirder, he said, there was no other car around for her to have left in. Look, you can be a Christian, you can not be a Christian, you can have any beliefs you want to, but if you ever believed in guardian angels, I had one, right? And I had one that night, and it saved me. And I'll tell you why, because one of the places that was broken my back was broke so bad, if I'd have got out of the car, they said I'd been paralyzed. That's from the doctor. That's from a neurosurgeon, right? It was the L4 fracture. It was a burst fracture, so it's completely gone. First off, I shouldn't have survived the wreck. You don't go head on with an oak tree at about 75 and don't survive. Second off, I should probably be paralyzed because I was I was getting out of the car. There was no way I was going to, because I thought it was on fire. I'm like, I'm not burning it to death. Clearly had a guardian angel looking over me that day, right? So if you want to talk about purpose and having a different purpose and what you're supposed to do in life, clearly I've got more work to do. Greed kills everybody, right? Drug distribution is all about greed, right? It's simple economics. It's supply and demand. It's a business model. Where there's demand, there'll always be supply. And greed gets them every time, like it does every criminal. Who shows up? Rolling out with a shotgun? Corrupt security guard. And we're on our radio, we had our portables with us, right? And we're hollering, for DEA to send us some DPD help, right? Because that's who's coming, right? Like, we need some help, shots fired, get DPD here. And look, and as we said, you're not always going to make everybody happy. I get it. Not everyone's going to like all your decisions. That's so be it. But you got to look at the man himself, right? As you just said, forget he's a chief. Let's look at Danny Como as Danny Como, the man, the husband, the father, the friend, the brother. And if you look at that and then you put the chief label back on top of him, you got a guy that's going to do just fine if you give him a shot.
You're listening to the ATO Bridging the Divide podcast, brought to you by the Assist the Officer Foundation.
Since 1999, the ATO has given assistance to the first responder community, and now we want to give them a platform to hear their incredible stories.
We also want to hear the stories of the many people that support us.
Our community is small, but it is strong.
We have differences. We don't always agree, and we all make mistakes.
But together we can grow, we can heal.
And we can learn from those mistakes.
And together we can bridge the divide.
Inside the chambers of the Hoover City Council, a new chapter in the city's history quietly began. With a unanimous vote, Clay Morris was appointed as the next chief of Hoover Police Department, one of the Southeast's most respected law enforcement agencies. A leader shaped by more than 3 decades of service, Morris began his career with the Sheriff's Department before serving 25 years with the DEA in leadership roles across the country, including overseeing operations throughout Alabama. But in this moment, the resume mattered less than the responsibility ahead, because stepping into Hoover is no ordinary transition. Standing before the council beside his family, Morris spoke with humility, honesty, and resolve. He acknowledged the weight of leading a department with such a strong reputation and made it clear he understood that trust and respect are never automatically given in leadership positions. They must be earned. Morris pledged to lead with an unmatched work ethic and spoke of Hoover standing on the edge of a transformative new era for the city. His message to the men and women of the Hoover Police Department was simple. Give him the opportunity to earn their trust, and he would dedicate himself fully to leading alongside them. And with that, Hoover's next chapter officially began. Chief, welcome to Dallas.
Thank you, sir. I'm thrilled to be here and I appreciate you inviting me.
We're going to get into your history in Dallas, but you've got I was reading your bio, you've got a pretty extensive history here. You knew a lot of people that I grew up with, the narcotics side.
Well, it's funny you say that because I thought just seeing you online and seeing your presence, I was like, well, we're probably from close to the same generation. And look, I cut my teeth with DEA here in Dallas and came over as a police officer from Louisiana and luckily partnered up with some great DPD guys. Man, we had a great time.
Yeah, we got the old Barry Ragsdales and and Kim Sander and Tony Gibson's. I mean, we have a lot of history that they've since retired, but
sure.
I was reading your bio and I was getting excited about this, but we're gonna get to that. I always start at the top of the guest. Can you kind of talk about where you grew up and about home life?
Sure, great, man. Look, again, thank you for having me. Home life was in Louisiana. Look, I'm a Louisiana boy, just like Chief Como. Born and raised really half my childhood years in Monroe, Louisiana. then moved to Shreveport, Louisiana for a minute, then really settled in Baton Rouge. Grew up with a great family. As we've talked a little bit before, and you've seen on my bio, come from a family of public servants, deeply rooted in law enforcement, and always looked up to my dad as he's the hero. He's the person and the example I looked at who made me who I was today.
Where did he work?
When I was born, he started with Louisiana State Police,
Mm-hmm.
and then when I was born, he went to the Northeast Louisiana University and started the criminal justice program there.
Which was probably very new for all universities.
1970. I mean,
Yeah.
it was very
Right.
very new
Concept, man.
Yeah, concept. He went to the Chicago, to the command staff and college there in Chicago. He taught there for Louisiana State Police. Someone at the university saw him there, hired him, brought him in to start the program. Look, that's where I went to school. I went to school in criminal justice in the program he started. When he started that program, he also started the North Delta Regional Police Academy in Monroe, Louisiana. That's the police academy I went to. So
Talk about full circle.
No,
Wow.
it's crazy lineage for sure.
What about that badge, and what about that profession that really resonated with you at a young age?
Man, it's a great question. My parents, my mom included, she's now up in heaven with the good Lord, and they always taught us to help others.
Mm-hmm.
Always taught us, whatever you were in public service, always put others before you and help others. And it just resonated. That's all I knew, honestly.
It really is a basic thing, though, to do, and that's what we all should strive to do in no matter what profession. But it goes back to just being a good person and helping others.
It was funny. We can talk about, and I think we'll get to this later, but people think it's hard, right? They think leadership is hard. They think being a police officer is hard, and the concept of the job, no, the job is hard, but the concept of the job is simple, right? Help others.
That's what it's about, help others.
Yeah, it's not hard. Our world has forgotten that.
In my opinion, I'm not anybody knows me, I'm a very apolitical person, but I think that there's, especially with the use of social media and online, I think there's so much tribal behavior and people just want to say things to get sound bites or make other sides mad, and both sides are guilty of it, and as opposed to just having a rational, logical conversation and finding out what's best for the aggregate.
Sure.
Not for yourself.
What's funny, I tell people all the time, it's easy to hate from your recliner on your phone, clicking away.
Yeah.
Real easy to hate.
It is, and it's really easy to just attack someone.
Sure.
You don't realize that everybody you're attacking and everybody that actually is reading your attacks about somebody else, it can infect or affect somebody's life.
No, it's sure. I even talked to my officers. I said, look, we can agree to disagree, right? That's okay. Public discourse, we've lost our way.
Yes.
Like we do not know how to communicate, and just, man, it's not hard. I don't hate you because you have a different opinion of mine. That's okay. We just have a different opinion. I'm not right, and you're not wrong, and you're not wrong, and I'm not right.
Well, nobody is ever 100% right or 100% wrong on anything.
Ever.
You and I are on the same page, and actually one of the reasons starting this show is, I started it in mid-2021 and what was going on nationally, and we were getting over and a lot of different things, and Bridging the Divide is the title of it, and that was very well thought out. We all got to come together. We all live in the same ecosystem of society.
Oh, absolutely. Well, as I said just a few minutes ago, we've lost our way, right? Like, common decency, and as you said, just being kind to people, man, it's not hard. It's truly, truly not hard. I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but if we just stop and take a pause, man, like stop for 5 seconds before you launch that social media post or Facebook post or tweet back, and take a breath, man, and think about who you're influencing.
It's a basic fundamental, really. It is kindness. Well, you're right. We have a lot to, but going back, I'm a big, just like yourself, I'm a big history buff, and just driving in this morning, I was listening to Brett Baer's new book, his new book about the founding of America, and it's really interesting of how going back to the roots of this country, that there's always been discourse. And if anybody thinks that we're all gonna read from the same hymn book and always agree, it's a fantasy. But it is something you should always strive to do.
Sure. Look, again, we're not always going to get along, and that's okay, right? It's how you treat each other when you don't, and it's okay to agree to disagree.
Absolutely. So you're the youngest of 3 siblings.
I am. I'm the youngest. My brother's the oldest. We've got a sister in the middle. We're all 4 years apart. My brother's been in law enforcement his entire career. He's a chief of police in Louisiana also.
Oh, wow. What's his name? Give him a shout out.
Yeah, it's Todd Morris. It's from St. George, Louisiana. Actually, they created a new city on the suburbs of Baton Rouge, on the south side of Baton Rouge. He always worked for the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office, where one of the places I started as well. And when they finally formed the city, the laws in Louisiana, the governor has to appoint the first chief of police. So he appointed my brother. And he's now the chief, and they've got a mayor and council, and he's starting a new department, a new city from the ground up. It was immediately the fifth largest city in Louisiana, about 98,000 people.
When I went to high school, Frisco it was like a 3A school, and now it is home of the Cowboys. And it's like a super city.
No, when I was here years ago, Frisco was just, as you said, a baby.
Yeah,
just starting.
Yeah, it was an little infant city, and now it is the place to be in North Texas and growing.
Oh, sure. Sure. And my sister, she's an educator, and my mom was in education as well. My mom was actually the manager of our school cafeteria when I was growing up. And so I saw her every day. Before that, when I was a little kid, she worked at the State Police Crime Lab. So if I was sick a day from school, I would go with her to work and sit in the conference room with the crime lab. So I've literally been around public service and law enforcement my entire life.
Just in what you told me in the last 5 minutes, you have been immersed, and your family has been immersed in positions that affect so many others and mentor and inspire so many others. I mean, you're in the education system. I mean, how many young minds are you there to influence? And they're going to grow up to be hopefully our age, and in the early stages of life, that defines who they're going to be.
Sure,
it's crucial.
Look, I think COVID proved to us, like, staying at home and not being in school is not a good thing for young minds, right?
No, my daughter was starting kindergarten in that year, and it was
tough.
That was very rough. It wasn't good for people to be not at all isolated either. I'm reading your bio. You were always going to get into law enforcement. It sounds like it was a foregone.
No doubter. No doubter.
Can you talk about where you applied?
Sure. When I was going through, I did the 4-year degree plan, right? Like we all did at those days, 5 years and 2 or 3 universities, but we got through it. And my last year, I actually quit college my last year, and my dad said, "Okay, if you quit, well, the last year's on you." So what's not in the bio is I worked for the Department of Corrections my last year to get through my last year of college. And when I got through my last year of college, I said, well, maybe I want to go get a graduate degree, master's degree. Well, they had a program back at Northeast where my dad founded the program many years before.
That's crazy.
And you had to have a full-time job in law enforcement for a graduate assistantship, right? So I could get some of it paid for. So I was like, man, what am I going to do? I can get it paid for. I'll go back, start working, get my master's degree, and kill 2 birds with 1 stone, so to speak. So I went around. Obviously, my dad knew all the chiefs, sheriffs, everyone there, and the city marshal. He said, "Well, go talk to Marshal Wenzel." I said, "Well, I'll go do that." And I talked to the chief. Was working through the process to get hired, but I had to get hired in. The semester started, right? So I had to have the job to get the scholarship. And the marshal said, "Got a spot for you. We'll hire you, send you to the academy, and it'll fit with your education." And that's how it took off.
You're working around a very unpredictable group of different types of people, and a very, very diverse group, and also it's starting off your training your mind to be in a hypervigilant state.
It's funny. I tell people all the time, especially the young officers. I tell them, look, I learned how to deal with people in the prison without question.
Yeah, I'll say that I worked at a mental hospital here in Terrell State, and you talk about unpredictable people, and I really think that helped me get acclimated to unpredictable person and violent person.
Sure. Well, look, the Correctional Officer Academy for the Louisiana Department of Corrections is at the Louisiana State Penitentiary in Angola. Especially that long ago, that's no joke. There, it's not a place to be, right?
There's some serious people there.
5,000 convicts, and over 80% have life or greater.
Yeah, they don't have a lot to lose.
No,
and they don't. Yeah,
wow. You learn real quickly when you're in a dorm of over 100 how to deal with people.
Yeah, and how to protect yourself.
Absolutely.
So where did you ended up applying after you did your stint there?
So was got through graduate school, right? So that was in the mid '90s, and worked at City Marshal's office. I was assigned to the local drug task force there. So I was a narcotics investigator. It was the Metro Narcotics of Ouachita Parish. Well, shout out to those guys. All my buddies we worked with back then are now chiefs and sheriffs in Monroe and Ouachita Parish and Ruston. So
they did something right.
It's another full circle moment, and 2 of them went through DEA as well and retired and were back. So did that for 2 years. The federal government started. They had a hiring freeze for many years in the early '90s. 95.
It's very common, even in Dallas. It was we had
Sure.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, 93, 94, they opened it back up, right, and I applied. And, federal government, God bless them, they function in spite of themselves. Hiring is very slow. So it took about a year to go through the process, and that was quick. And I'd applied with DEA, Border Patrol, and U.S. Marshals, right? Because really, if you think about it, in the mid-90s, man, there was no money to be. You had to go to work for the federal government to make any money.
Right.
Money and benefits and health insurance, right? I mean, I worked, and look, I really, and back in those days, I'd have done it for free, right? That's just what I wanted. That's just what I wanted to do. But I made no money. I mean, if I didn't have a security apartment and a take-home car, I wouldn't have made it. Literally wouldn't have made it. Went through the process with all three, did the Border Patrol thing. You started with the Marshals. DEA got through first, got offered a position, accepted it. Went to the academy. The first week I was at the academy, the Marshals called, offered me a position. I'm like, man, look, y'all are a week too late. Because really, I'd have took either one at the time. And went through the academy there at Quantico, Virginia, out of the Shreveport, Louisiana office. That's where I was hired out of.
Okay.
And went through the academy. Of course, when I got there, I'm like, man, I got this great job. My salary was ridiculous. First check compared to what I was making, right? And it wasn't really big money even back then. But got to the academy, then the federal government shuts down. I go on a furlough. I'm like, how did I just get this great job and now I'm not getting paid, right? So that lasted for a little bit, and got to the academy, back to Shreveport. My first duty station with the DEA after the academy was Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
So I moved to Dallas in early 96, January 96. And back then, right, I mean, you didn't have the internet, really. You didn't have it at all. I mean, I got an apartment finder book, right?
Yeah, and that's back when you actually had to look up, go to map. There was no internet to Google Maps.
Maps go.
Yeah, there was map. Well, I cut my teeth on Maps go.
Me too.
And then after that, the very MapQuest. Remember when you finally got it?
Yep.
It was MapQuest.
Yeah. Maps go was a book. Just for y'all that don't know, it was a book.
You know what? It's a very helpful book, though.
Oh yeah,
and it actually, I still have my old Maps Go from the late '90s, and I'm gonna hang on to that.
I've got one in my attic, my boxes, man. Like, there's one of these stories that we'll get to it. It's got a pretty funny Maps Go portion to it.
It's a relic. Yeah.
No, it is truly. So I drove here for one weekend, and I didn't know where to go. I mean, I knew Dallas. I'd been here before, Six Flags as a kid. And drove here, literally went to a 7-Eleven, got the apartment guide book that are free.
Yeah.
And started looking. I said, well, the airport's kind of central. Let me look in that area.
And at that point, so you moved to Dallas in 96-ish.
Yep.
So as far as were you single at that point or? Okay.
Yep, I was single. I met my wife here and met her at church here, and we got married 97.
Oh, well, really quickly?
Fairly quickly,
wow,
yes.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
Okay.
When I got here, got assigned to Dallas, the MET team, mobile enforcement team back then.
Can you describe that, what that team was, the function was, and just to kind of educate the listener and even myself?
Sure, yeah. For my first time was the MET called Mobile Enforcement Team, and it was a project across DEA where we would have agents and we would be assigned to work, really it turned out to be the crack epidemic back then in small rural areas outside of our division. Right. Because we were designed to go to areas that couldn't afford or fund proper narcotics enforcement and help them with problems. And there was a process where they had to apply and get approved. And so we were based in Dallas, but we traveled all around, North Texas here. Tyler, Terrell, Greenville. We did one in Fort Worth, actually, and we traveled all the little towns around here.
I'm fascinated with this. So it was a mini drug team that went around us all North Texas, because as you know better than I do about how everything's connected here, because we're such a hub here in Texas, and everything comes into Dallas and it spreads out across the country.
Yep. So we would work these cases reverse, right? So we would start in the small areas and really street level buys, right? So we were making conspiracies on street level buys, and that was the program. They would wrap everybody up in a conspiracy where there'd be some teeth to the charges. In federal charges, you were still going to do time even back then. On make 3 buys, move to the next one, just like street level narcotics anywhere else, but with a federal twist. But then we would also, sometimes we'd end up with a wiretap if we'd finally work our way back to the source, and all the sources obviously came back to Dallas, right? We went to Paris, Texas, Tyler, East Texas.
There was a nexus here.
Always a nexus back to Dallas.
Interesting.
Yeah. All the sources apply. When you got to the mid-level and finally up to wholesale, would be back here in Dallas.
So I want you to describe a little bit for the listener, because I know a lot of people love these old cop stories, and
Sure.
Talk about your some of your undercover buys and how you acclimated to that.
Sure.
Because that is much different from where you started.
No, absolutely. Look, and it's funny. In DEA back then, they wanted you, as part of your FTO, right, or FTA. It was their, filtering agent. You had to do some undercover. that's kind of a lost art. But so you had to find a case, work some undercover, and we found a case here in Dallas and started buying ecstasy out of some of the clubs, right?
What year was that?
96.
Okay. Well, it was kind of like when ecstasy was starting to hear about
No,
it, right?
it was new, right? It was like, what is this? MDMA.
Designer,
Yeah. And so, had an informant, made a couple buys in the clubs here. I won't even tell you which clubs. we can talk about that
They're
later.
probably still selling.
They're probably on. They're probably
Yeah.
still here. A lot of them down off Regal Road.
Yeah,
you know where I'm at now.
I know exactly where
right,
you're at.
Northwest Highway. So started buying from a girl. End up, as we all do, right? You buy small and you keep adding up, right? Greed kills everybody, right? Drug distribution is all about greed, right? It's simple economics. It's supply and demand. It's a business model where there's demand, there'll always be supply, and greed gets them every time, like it does every criminal. So we worked our way up, buying more and more. Then we arrested her one day, and then then we got her to work for us, right? And she flipped on some people and her sources, and we started doing those sources, and worked our way up through. Back then, it was club drugs was kind of new, right? Club drug scene, and that is a whole different culture than methamphetamine, heroin, crack cocaine. And we worked our way through that undercover, and it was funny. It doesn't matter now. My name was Chad West. It was the first name of my best buddy and the last name of my other best buddy. So we combined them and we rocked and rolled, and it worked out.
That's awesome. So what kind of look were you rocking back then?
Oh man, look, back then it was long hair, but it was more mullet style long hair.
Yeah. Well, now it's just like I have on a bunch of buddies here I grew up with in patrol, and then they went on to narcotics, and the first thing they do is grow their hair out long.
Yeah.
And some actually found out they actually have hair to grow out.
Oh, yeah.
And then the facial hair, you got to get the
Yep. Had a little
cool
goatee
beard.
action, and yes. Yeah, I made a mistake one time, shaved my head, and I was right after I got married. My wife about had a stroke.
Yeah.
It was me and my partner. He was the chief of police in Louisiana now. We're like, oh man, let's shave our hair and do goatees. Nobody's really doing that yet.
What did she think about all this you were doing here in the drug scene in Dallas? It's a big city.
Yeah, no. So she come from single mom, only had a sister, right? No concept. No concept about this world that I'm bringing to her. And, look, she adapted to it. It took a minute. One of these stories we'll get to was a shooting we had, and Dallas news media is everywhere, and I'm trying to call her because I'm out there, and she knew where I was at, and she adapted very, very well. I tell people all the time, only by the grace of God and my wife am I here, and she is the reason my children are highly successful now because of the job I had, without question.
Right.
But it was a total shocker to her.
I bet, especially because she grew up here in Dallas.
She did.
Okay,
Yeah.
so she did
Bedford
the scene.
back then, Bedford Grapevine.
Yeah, it was on the Bedford Grapevine is the
HEB.
outskirts of that, and then
Yeah.
actually, Grapevine is still a pretty nice part of the area.
Yes. Yeah,
And back then I would imagine it's very nice. Chief, I gotta ask you, because you were starting in Dallas as I was starting my young DPD career, January '97. You were just getting going in the seedy underworld of Dallas, and you were working with local law enforcement in Dallas, and this area is the biggest department in North Texas. From the outside looking in, you're looking at your DEA, you're looking into the Dallas PD snow globe. What was the perception of how Dallas PD was back then?
Oh man, it's good. Perception is very simple. Great partner, great partner. There's no way you don't partner with Dallas back then, right? I mean, again, even if you're working the outskirts of the outer counties around Dallas, it's all coming back to Dallas. All the sources are here, and your narcotics department back then, a lot of them were signed to DEA, and even the ones that weren't, we would work with them. And your SWAT team worked with them all the time, always executing warrants for us, trying to help them. They helped us. When I'm talking about a ton, I've been to more briefings at the SWAT office than you can imagine back in the '90s, right? I mean,
well, I tell you what, I'm going to be sending some of these photos of us together to like people like the Steve Clackett's of the world, and he's actually come on the show. You got to listen to his episode, and him and his wife came on together, and I mean, Steve's been on as a co-host multiple times.
Really?
We love some Steve Clackett, but you working with our narcotics, because our narcotics at that time was coming off the heels of the Jamaican drug wars here in our city, and very violent. The most violent time of Dallas was the mid-'90s. And then you're coming in, and we have some really SWAT legends from that era of SWAT that you were growing up with.
A fun fact for Dallas SWAT, to shout out to them, I went to basic SWAT school, and Dallas SWAT came over to Louisiana and taught the school.
Wow.
That's like 92.
Oh, man, I bet that
93,
was...
92.
Yeah, and you probably know... remember Scott McDonald, the commander.
Yeah, know the names. He would not know me, but I certainly know who you're talking about.
Yes. Yeah, so I had a history and evolution of Dallas SWAT episode as a two-parter.
Yeah.
Claggett and the commander were on with two current SWAT guys, and it was a great history lesson in our and actually the history of SWAT for the country, but also for the city.
No, I was just about to say that they were one of the founding teams across the country that really took SWAT and tactics and operations to a different level, right? Just because of the sheer volume of work you had to do here.
Yeah, well, you saw it, you had a front row seat to that. You got a Dallas SWAT meth lab story. Can you talk about that?
Sure, man. It's a crazy story. Late 90s, headed home. I don't even think I had a cell phone at that time, right? We had pagers. Then we had the old alphanumeric pager where you could get a message. And shout out to Tim.
I was too poor to have that, by the way.
Well, that's only because DEA gave me one. Let me be clear. Tim Richards, one of my buddies in Group 2, and we were the lab group. He texted me, and I called him. I just gotten home out in Bedford, Friday, crazy traffic, right? And he says, hey, he said, Dallas PD just called, and they need us to come. They got a barricaded person. They need us to come execute it and deal with that situation. I said, do what? He said, no, it's a barricaded person in a meth lab. I was like, okay. I said, look, man, first off, Dallas PD SWAT never called DEA to come help them on a barricaded person. That's the other way around, right? I'm like, holy smokes. And it's Friday. There's a thing in the federal government, Federal Friday, right? You're trying to find people, right? So we literally find three of us. It's me, Tim, and Keith Bishop. And Keith Bishop's, he's a legend in DEA. He's been around here, played for the Denver Broncos. Many people here know him, lived here, taught me a lot. So it's us three, and that's it. So we get down to some cul-de-sac, South Dallas, and DPD SWAT's there, fire department's there. I can tell right off it's not too crazy. It's just kind of a loose perimeter, nothing crazy. But they're like, there's the house. The meth lab is there. He was in there, and they took off running. I'm like, well, okay. So we're like, man, all right, well, we put our gear on, right? We didn't put on SCBAs. We put on some APRs. And like, all right, let's go. Three of us. I said, we'll figure it out. Let's roll. So we go in there, and the meth lab is kind of in the kitchen garage area. So we kind of render it safe real quick, make sure it's not going to blow up on us. Because back then they were real meth labs back then, right? It was no joke. And then we go to three people trying to clear this house of somebody with not one, two guys in there. I'm like, goodness gracious, man. And we're like, if it goes bad, maybe they'll come help us. So we get to the back room of the house, and we don't find them anywhere. I'm like, man. And then we look in the last closet in the back bedroom. There's a hole going down the crawl space.
Yeah. Right?
And there's wood floors, older house. And we're like, well, we ain't got no choice. We're fixing to cut a hole in this floor. I mean, look, back then we didn't care. Like we're gonna find you. We're here. Like we're gonna do what we gotta do to get you.
You ain't leaving till you're caught.
Yeah, we're not leaving by ourselves here, right? And we knew there was two. So we hold the hole, right? Keith Bishop, who's a giant, goes out, gets the soft fire truck, right? He comes back in, and it's no lights in the back of the house, right? Just dimly lit from the front room. Mm-hmm. He's walking down the hall, and it's like Chainsaw Massacre because he's a giant anyway. He's got all this gear on, mask on, and he's revving the saw up. And I'm like, what are we doing here? What are we doing?
You're going to take this out of the foundation.
Oh, yeah, no, right? So he gets back there, and he starts cutting that floor, and two hands come flying out of that hole, right? So
hopefully they were still attached.
Hands. And they were. Okay. Those were, right? Good. So we get down there, and we get him out, take him outside, hand him off. We know there's somebody else in there, and he don't come out. So I'm like, God, what are we going to do here? Cut a hole. And Tim, before DEA, he was an EOD guy in the Navy, right? Like, so he don't care. And he's like, I'm going in. I'm like, you're doing what? And I'm like, he's like, I'm going down there. I said, okay. I mean, it's a crawl space. Like we can't even get a rifle down there, right?
So dangerous.
No, what? There's no way you don't do that today, right? But we knew we had another guy we had to deal with, figure it out. So me and he goes down. I'm like, well, I can't let my buddy go down there by himself. So I go down there, and we're literally crawling. And like you didn't have, DEA didn't. You didn't have a light on your pistol back then, right? Right. Flashlight pistols, and we crawl the whole thing. We don't see the guy. Can't find him. We come out, like he got away. So, right, he's not there. Process the lab, get done, like 3 a.m. And then we get a call from Cedar Hill. Cedar Hill calls us. Hey, there's a guy at the ER, bad chemical issues. He's here. Well, like that's our guy. So we go back out Saturday morning to the ER, and he was in the crawl space. And we were about 3 feet from him. It was so dusty and dark, couldn't see him.
You couldn't see
With
him.
a flashlight, couldn't see him. Missed him. 3 feet. He told us when we got there. crazy story, right? The craziest part is like DPD SWAT doesn't call DEA to come help with a barricaded person in the house, right? That don't happen.
Well, and you're talking about this. So I was thinking about meth labs, the way they were used back then. How common was that? Like that, those kind of meth labs at that point in the late 90s.
So it gotten so bad. So I was in the lab group, right? So it gotten so bad, so we had red phosphorus labs and Nazi labs, right? There were two back then. Red phosphorus then went to Nazis. This was a red phosphorus lab. So red phosphorus, it's very volatile because if you heat it up too bad, it turns to white phosphorus, right? Or then you go to phosphine gas, but it doesn't blow up then, and that's the problem. Like, you don't survive it if you inhale it. And we would go literally at the peak of it in the 90s. We'd work all night. We'd go from lab to lab, and the cleanup crew would just stay in town. There were that many in the Metroplex area, right? Oh my gosh!
I'd imagine that looking back now we have all this new technology and cleanliness, and I can imagine that there's no telling what kind of chemicals you tracked away from there, getting back in your car.
I tell people all the time, I'm lucky I don't have like a thumb growing on my forehead.
Yeah,
truly.
Lucky, I mean, really.
Truly. Yeah.
Speaking of volatile chemicals, I'm reading about a PCP case in Oak Cliff. Can you talk about that?
That's another crazy one. Yeah, shout out to Mike Ferguson. He's my junior partner, his training partner. We got in the shooting here in Dallas with him also. Yeah, working a case, right? Meth case, had an informant buying PCP. It was funny. PCP kind of got hot right there to late 90s, 2000s around town. I mean, that stuff is no joke. Right?
Yeah, people that's when we start seeing it.
They don't know how bad that is, right? And they don't know how bad the effects are when you're trying to deal with someone who's on PCP. And so we're buying some PCP, and and back then they'd put it in Snapple bottles. If you remember old Snapple bottles, because you wouldn't know it was yellow, looked like
yes, sir.
Lemonade or apple juice, right? In Snapple bottles. So we're buying it. We end up, we increase the amounts, right? We go do a buy bust, and we're in Oak Cliff, old apartment complex, and the guy's going to bring it to our informant in an apartment upstairs. So we're set up. I think DPD SWAT may have been there. They were going to hit the house. We were going to take the guy in the driveway. They were going to hit the house, right, or the apartment. And guy pulls up. One guy goes upstairs, delivery's made, signals, everybody gives a signal, and I think it's SWAT goes up to the apartment, and we secure the car because somebody's in the car, right? And this big old dude, we're on him. We got the car blocked in. We're hollering him to get out, and he gets out, and he's taking his last toke of a big Sherman cigarette. And I said, this is fixing to be a problem.
Describe that. I know what a Sherman cigarette is because can you describe it for the listener about the time how that was used?
Yeah, man. So Sherms they called them Sherms back then.
Yep.
The old brown, like cigarello type cigarettes, right? And you always knew if you found some Shermans in some tinfoil, right? Don't touch them because they've been soaked in PCP.
Absolutely.
And you can't touch PCP without gloves on them. It's absorbed. It'll absorb through your skin, right? It's funny you say that because I take for granted people know what Sherms are. Cigarettes, right?
You're doing it. And I always come in a little box.
Yeah.
They were a little box with a fancy lid.
Yep.
Yeah.
And look, they did the brown paper because the white paper would just dissolve in liquid. So the Sherman brown paper was thicker and it would hold the PCP. And he was taking his last hit. And he was a big dude. I said, oh my.
Of course, it had to be a big dude.
Oh, it's always a big. Look, I'm not a big guy, right? It's always a big dude, bro. And Fergie, my partner, I'll just say we got him secured. I'll leave that there.
Okay.
And we're getting him out of the car, and we look up, and we're at Oak Cliff, man. And we look up behind the road, and there's a dude riding a horse bareback through Oak Cliff, coming right past us. And I'm like, did we just see that, or did we touch the Sherm? What's happening here?
Hallucinating.
To this day, I have no clue where that guy on that horse come from Oak Cliff. Like no clue.
He probably didn't. He probably wasn't real, and you did get you got a whiff of that Sherm.
Yeah, that was either that or the meth lab, right? One of the two. But I'm telling you, I got witnesses. That dude rode bareback through Oak Cliff on a horse. I'm like, it's just the crazy thing you see.
Was it a getaway?
I think he saw what was going on. He was moving in the other direction.
He's getting out of the other neighborhood.
He was not at a walk. I'll say that with the horse.
Yeah, God, it's bringing back a lot of memories for me in late 90s, early 2000s of working out in Oak Cliff and the rise of PCP. And you go hit a weed house, usually it was a combination. You'd have weed and PCP. Yeah. It's, man, that was it's crazy to see that rise, and all of a sudden it kept coming.
Kept going. Look, PCP is very volatile, too. Forget the effects of the drug on the person, right? The chemical itself is very, very volatile, and it will blow up on you in a second. And the Texas heat, man, is brutal. It's a killer.
Can you okay, just again, we're speaking to many people that never put on the badge and never and actually seen PCP. Can you describe what the smell is and also the like what the chemical is?
Yeah, look, so there's an ether base to it, right? That's not look, that's just the additive, right? It's not the drug. It's not the phencyclidine, but it's ether based, and the smell, man, is golly, it's a pungent chemical smell. When you get it in, you got to get in volume to smell it, right?
Is it like nail polish remover?
Yes.
Kind of like stronger though?
Yeah. Very chemical. That's a great example. Nail polish remover, very, very strong. You look, one you'd never, back then you wouldn't open a Snapple bottle that had yellow liquid in it because you knew. But when you open it up, it's significant. We would always actually call our chemist out. It's so volatile. If you had anything over an ounce or two, right? And an ounce or two back then, 16 ounces, that's big money.
That's a lot of
big money.
PCP.
I mean, you think about how many cigarettes you can dip in 16 ounces, right?
And sell those cigarettes for like $20 a pop.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, we used to, and we would finally work up, and we did some search for it. We found like 5 or 6, Snapple bottles full, 2-liter bottles full, and you got your guy when you're at that level.
Yeah. Well, there was a house we ran up in South Dallas. It was over there off Crozier and Hatcher, and we saw him grab like a big Listerine, one of those big tall Listerine bottles, but it was full of yellowish looking. We knew what it was.
Sure.
He takes off to the back, so we're trying to muscle open the burglar bars and the door, and the time we get in there, he had already poured 2 full of the Listerine bottles down the sink, and there was 2 others sitting there that he hadn't got to, and then a ton of tiny vials. That's the thing they would do. They would get these eyedroppers, and they'd put them in these tiny little brown vials, and that's how they still sell them. But the smell of that house after he had poured so much down the drain, and we all were sick.
Oh, you're sick. You can't stay in the house.
There you go. I was surprised. Looking back, we probably should have went to the hospital. Because we
exposure without question.
I threw up.
Oh no, you will. Look, and it doesn't take a lot, as you know. I mean, look, people, they don't believe you, right? But a Listerine bottle is a significant amount of PCP. And back then, we didn't really make PCP in Dallas, right? We didn't have PCP labs per se. It was coming from L.A. Our cases it was getting here from L.A. Back then. That's a long time ago, right? We made every other drug around here, but PCP we didn't have too many PCP labs. So we had one call one time on a PCP true lab
in Dallas.
Yeah. I mean, that's back 90.
There was a funeral home, and it was a front in here in South Dallas,
Sure.
and they were running the embalming fluid. They were running PCP out of there. Yeah.
It's funny you bring up that embalming fluid, because people would always try to scam you and use some of that embalming fluid for it, right?
Yeah.
That's the fake PCP.
Yeah.
But well, I won't say that. I'll be quiet.
I'm sure to get you high.
You said it, I didn't. So there you go. There you are. Yeah, without question.
Chief, you got so many. When Como told me about getting you on the show, I had no idea you had so many close ties to Dallas until I started reading your bio, and I'm like, literally, we were working almost parallel careers at different levels, obviously. And I was out on the streets and hitting some of these houses that you were looking at you were looking at the dealers of the trap houses I was messing with, probably.
Yeah. No, man, look, it's funny, and I have, again, and I do want to say this to anybody that happens to listen. It makes me no better than anybody else, man. I'm just old, and I took full advantage of my job. That's it, man. We just had a great time. I'm not any better than anybody else. We just worked.
I believe when it comes to this job is you can do a lot of different things. You can work at your own pace. You could pave your own path. You could work as hard or as little as you want.
Sure.
You really get paid the same. And there's not a lot of motivation other than self-motivation to do above the minimum. And I look at this job, and I still look at this job in my new role as I'm close to my sunset, that you really need to get the most out of this life, just like your overall life, because this law enforcement life is finite.
100% finite. There's an end date. You hear me?
There's an expiration date on all of this.
Everything. So look, in life in general. And we can't go down that road, but I've seen too many people die, and I've watched them take their last breath that they should have took 30 minutes ago.
Yes.
You're not going to die before it's your time. And when the good Lord says it's time for you to go home, that's when you go home, period.
Speaking of that, a lot of brushes with a death. You talk about a shooting you got into?
I don't know if I was a good cop or a bad one, right? But I've had several. But I think it's operational tempo leads to that, right?
Yes.
The more you do, the more exposure you're going to have. Oh man, I mentioned him earlier, Mike Ferguson. We call him Fergie. I was an FTA and a training agent. He was one of my first, junior agents out of the academy. So man, we're trying to get him neck deep, right? Like we're trying to let's go, my man. And he was fired up. He was a policeman in San Antonio, so he knew what he was doing. So we're working a case, we just get a tip about a guy selling coke out of some apartments in Oak Cliff, right? So we don't really have anything to go on. We do surveillance, can't catch the guy coming or going. He don't really sell out of his house. We just know where he lives and where he supposedly keeps his coke. We tried everything, right? So we're gonna say, hey, we're gonna do a knock and talk one day. We were bored. Let's go knock on this guy's door. So back then, right, 3 of us, we got plenty, right? 3 people go do a knock and talk. 3 people. It's a different time, right?
Yeah.
Now look, there are some policies DEA named after me, and this is probably one of them.
Okay.
But it was a different time. Wrote our ops, did it by the book. Wrote our ops plan, right? Did everything. Told everybody where we're going. Supervisor signed off on it. We go, and plain clothes, vest on, plain clothes with the badge, some ID, hanging out. And it's a nice apartment. It's Oak Cliff. It's nice. It's back then even expensive apartments, right?
Right.
And I'm sorry, not Oak Cliff, Oak Lawn.
Yes,
Oak
Oak
Lawn.
Lawn.
Excuse me. And so we go up to the door. I gotta get on the side of the door, knock on the door. Take a few minutes. We hear the guy walking to the door, and we say, "Who is it?" We say, "It's police, DEA. We need to talk to you." And we put our badge. He said, "Who is it?" We said, "DEA. We want to talk to you." And we put our badge up to the peephole, right? And look, man, this voice, I'm a country boy from Louisiana. Like, I'm not coming here to rob you, right, with this voice, and not in Dallas.
No.
And
you might be a hitman if that voice.
Maybe that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But and the next thing we hear is literally him racking his gun.
Yeah.
And like
that's a pucker factor.
No, right, like it's on, right? And the next thing we hear and see is the rounds coming through the door. And there's 3 of us, right? So one goes this way, Vic Zorden. He was my other partner. He's a chief of police in Monroe, Louisiana now. He goes one way, and he's pinned in the alcove by the door. It's a breezeway, right? And Fergie, my training agent, we go to the right, and Fergie starts going up the stairs. Some stairs are there, and here they come. You can see the rounds. Every time and everything slows down, right? It's either going to speed up or slow down those things.
It's like the Matrix.
Right? It's 100% the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
And now that we look back on it, you can see those rounds coming through the door, and you can see them, right? They're getting caught on the insulation of the door, and you see them coming. And they're coming from Fergie and I over to Vic, left to right. And so Fergie, he's fresh out of the academy. I'm like, I'm fixing to get my new guy killed. And look, he don't care, right? So he starts shooting back. Like, he ain't like, I'm not going to get shot at, I'm not shooting back. So he starts letting them fly. I'm like, what are we doing here? And, 4 rounds out to us. Fergie shoots about 4 in, and everything's done. And I pull Fergie over the rails of the stairs. Vic is on the other side of the door, like he's pinned. And the rounds were going toward Vic. And Vic played football in college, big man. Like, I must have some issue with big agents because I'm always around them. And he literally turns sideways as the rounds are coming to him to try to get thin. And the last one barely passes him, and it quits. And then, but we're separated, right? And he got to come across that door to get to us. So he finally makes a dash. And we're literally, like, we had on jackets and stuff, so we're ripping off clothes to see our badges and, our vests with police on them. And halfway to a 3-man perimeter of this apartment, at least it was a corner when we knew only had one. He had 2 ways out, right? He had the patio or the door. So we had that covered. But what we also knew was that we'd heard he had a corrupt security guard that was watching for him.
Of course.
Who shows up, rolling out with a shotgun? Corrupt security guard. And we're on our radio. We had our portables with us, right? And we're hollering, for DEA to send us some DPD help, right? Because that's who's coming, right? Like, we need some help, shots fired, get DPD here. So we are screaming at the security guard for him to put his shotgun down. And we know that's his guy. Oh, we're assuming that's his guy because the security guard rolls up immediately. And we talked about MAPSCO a while ago, right? The only thing I could get out to our dispatch was MAPSCO 26Y. That was it.
That was probably enough back then, though.
I couldn't get the address to save my life. The stress, the monkey was on my back, right?
Yeah.
But they knew from our ops plan and dispatch, our dispatch, and we got DP there and got it settled. He had coke in there. So
did the bad guy get hit?
No, he didn't. No. Everybody was clean, right?
How many rounds were fired, if you remember? About
8 total, 4 and 4.
Wow. Okay.
And ours went through one of his bathrooms was right by the door, so it started hitting that porcelain tile in the bathtub, and they were all in the bathtub.
Yeah.
All of them fell right there. Yeah. But he had the angle on him. The bathroom would have been there.
Big man, lucky didn't get hit.
No,
you can only get so small.
You can only get so small. And he's big. Center in college, big. And he knew they was coming at him. And everything slows down. Matrix, right? You can see him like 1, 2. I can see him sitting here right now.
And just a sound.
Yep.
And yeah.
And we were in a breezeway, right?
Yeah.
So we literally thought he was shooting a rifle at us because it was just reverberating like crazy in that breezeway. And but anyway,
I can't imagine how loud that was.
No, it was loud. And especially we wasn't look. That was the last thing on earth we thought was going to happen that day.
I want to get on something that just popped in my head just because you happen to be in the wellness unit. I know how mental health was approached in law enforcement in the late 90s and not just within 10 years ago. Okay. What was going on there as far as addressing, taking care of people?
Critical incidents?
Yeah.
Sure. No, DEA has actually shockingly had a fairly decent history of working early on. Even in the 90s, we had trauma team members, TTMs, and you were voted on by your peers, and each division had several, and we would mobilize for a critical incident. Now, that one they wouldn't mobilize because there was, no harm, no foul, right?
Well,
physically.
yeah.
No harm, no foul physically. But we did not. We could have asked for counseling sessions for that. We did not, but it was made available to us back then. I was a trauma team member here in Dallas.
Okay.
So I understand the program. I was a trauma team member my whole career. So I can appreciate and been in several critical incidents.
Yeah, of course.
And where we've used it. And if there's an injury or a fatality, you're required to go, right? Even DEA would make your entire group go together, and then you would have individual sessions also.
That's good.
Yeah, no, they
I was ahead of the curve.
Look, it's federal government right there, but that's one thing DE does very, very well, and that was very ahead of the curve back then.
Well, we talked about it with Margaret Bedoya when she was over that in the trauma team, and about getting that going. And I love and I
so you've talked to Margaret?
Oh, Margaret has had her episode. Her and David.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, got
Dave Downing. Come on.
Hey, okay, you listen. Here's a homework assignment. Listen to Margaret Bedoya and David Downing's episode. They came on. Yeah.
Well, look, I got to do better than Dave Downing.
Yeah,
I mean, come on, you got to keep talking.
Well, I'll tell you this. So, and I'll tell you what the bet was. Como bet me something during David's episode, and I'll tell you what the bet was after this is over. After we're off mic. Yep, phenomenal people. 100%. I mean, so now,
dear friends. Dave Downing's a dear friend.
Wait till you hear his episode. You're gonna love it. You'd be a good ride back to fly back to Alabama.
Done.
You got so much history here of working with our PD in our city. I love it, but we also have a lot of. I mean, our department in the city and local sports team, the connection, the nexus. There's also any major city USA. There's also dark history. Can you talk about
DEA included?
At DEA included, there's nobody immune to it.
Sure.
We hire from the human pool, and sometimes you always don't get you don't always catch the right fish for the job, sure. and it just happens. But sure. But the high majority, and this is talking about the very minority of every department's history. Can you talk about Club Babalu?
Sure. As we talked just briefly before, I was a little concerned about that, right? But I mean, look, the facts are what they are, and it is what it is, right? Even that long ago, right? Because I would never look. I think so highly of the Dallas Police Department. I would never want them to think poorly of it, right?
Right. But that incident is not representative of the whole
at all. No, not at all. But still, that's just truly the esteem I place on your department. I mean,
I appreciate it.
I cut my teeth here with a lot of your guys, right? It matters to me, and of course, Chief Gomo's here.
Yes, sir.
That doubles it down. Yeah, man, young agent. I was a trainee agent at the time, just out of the academy. First assignment here. My training agent, it was his case, Calvin. One of my mentors in DEA. He's a law enforcement executive in the area to this day. Got some information about possible corrupt Dallas policeman. Started working the case. Calvin did a lot of undercover work back then. A lot. He was good at it. Got to the point in the case and our information that there was a corrupt Dallas policeman looking to put a hit out on Michael Irvin.
Yes.
Irvin, excuse me. And that was our investigation. Calvin met in an undercover capacity at a hotel with your officer and was paid a large amount of cash to kill Michael Irvin. And I was outside in the parking lot listening to the kill. Me and another one of our partners in the group, because he was my senior agent.
How chilling was that for you to hear that? Because you grew up in the law enforcement profession, and we all are human, but we are held to a higher standard. How did that feel?
100%. Look, you've got multiple emotions, right? Like, are you kidding me? You really doing this, right? Over, let's just call it what it is. Over a stripper, right?
Yeah.
No offense to the industry.
No offense to the industry, but it was over. It was over a stripper, and it was the audience is probably tired of me talking about this Dallas Cowboy documentary, but this incident is covered in that documentary. And when you and I first started talking, I had no idea that you actually were involved in that case.
No, look, and it's one I kind of pitched to you lightly, right? Because I didn't know how it would be received.
Right.
And look, it was Calvin's case. I was a helper, right? And man, let me tell you something. You want to be nervous? Have a policeman come up, meet you in a hotel room, give you tens of thousands of dollars to kill a guy.
Not to kill somebody that's globally recognized, and he was on a championship team and one of the best receivers all time.
100%.
Who was going through his own problems at the time.
We all have problems, right? Understood.
But this was a crazy story, and I really can't wait to watch this documentary because the judge in Michael Irvin's case, because his case was actually going on when this broke.
Yes. No, look, man, and again, then at that point, like, we didn't know where the corruption went, right?
Right.
And look, again,
it was an isolated deal.
It just is what it is, right? You just don't know what you don't know at the time.
Right.
You got to make plans for every precaution. Like, we're dealing with an armed policeman, right? And we're driving around undercover all day, and you could be stopped by any Dallas policeman one day, right? It was, man, you talk about, certainly operational security concerns during that case. Well, that led to us, they were selling coke out of Club Babalu. I'm going to imagine it's not open anymore. And what we started to do was we're trying to do a wiretap on that club. And the FBI has what's called a lock and alarm team, and they're internationally known. They're very, very good. And we wanted to put a camera in the office of that club because that's where they did the coke deals. And he was involved with that club, right? Whole case was combined. And look, I'm brand new to DEA, right? Like, I'm great at buying street-level drugs, and that's what I did in Louisiana.
It's a different animal.
Running informants. I got it. This, total ball game, right? So we did surveillance on Club Babalu. This is in the 90s. We had to do it for 24 hours a day for 30 days straight before we could use this team, enter the club, install the camera in the middle of the night. I mean, this is really Calvin. He needs to be telling a story. He's a case agent, but I will give all credit to him. Please note that. And his case. So obviously, look, you don't get a court to give you authorization to do a camera in a business. I mean, that's the significant level of probable cause you've got to get to, right?
Yeah, it's RICO case type stuff.
Yeah.
From you see in movies.
No, it is.
Soprano.
And look, he got it. Federal judge gave us authorization to do it 30 days at a time. And we sat on that place for 24 hours a day for 30 days, documenting every movement. We had to know where every key holder was. We had to know where every owner was that night. We did it, right? So the night comes, the team comes back from D.C., and they're going to break into the club for us and help us install the camera. Right now, it's TV stuff, right? Now, I'm from Louisiana. I'm like, man, I have arrived. And literally, so everybody had assignments, right? We had to put every key holder down. Had to stay on them the whole time. We never broke the 30-day surveillance till they showed up. They show up that night, and this is a funny story about Kim Sanders. And shout out to Kim Sanders. We're all standing around there, and there was one light in the alley. We needed to not be there that night, right? And they needed to go away. And the FBI team, and they were squared away. They're like, hey, y'all got like a suppressed weapon or something? Like, we take this light out, and about that time you hear the crack of Kim's 22. Pow! And we're like, no.
Neutralized.
No, but the light's gone.
Yeah.
They're looking like, what are we doing?
Wow.
What are we doing? So anyway, we have our positions that night, and I'm at the back of the building, right, in the alley, and there's the FBI guy. They put him in my car, and he's got this little box in the car, and we go up to the back of the old green telephone boxes.
Yes, sir.
Right? And then you had cable pair and binding posts, right? That's how you knew the phone number. So he hooks his machine up to their number. I said, what are you doing? What is this? And my job was to sit with him until it was done. He said, if they happen to trip the alarm, I'm going to intercept the call. I'm really into some stuff now, right? And he had this little box. And I was like, okay. He hooked up to the phone line, cable pair and binding post. I said, okay. So his job all night, we sat there, and at one point they tripped a motion sensor they didn't know was in there. And they told us on the radio, just trip the alarm, here it comes. And my guy's like, I got it. And so his little box lights up, and he intercepts the call. And he has a recording. Back then, landlines, people don't even know what that is anymore.
Right.
This number's no longer associated, no longer active. And he recorded that, and that box answered that call, because an alarm will do it every 30 seconds, right, till it gets through for the rest of the night. He intercepted every call. And we were the last ones when they got out, they get the camera in, they get out. So we're the last ones to leave because we're intercepting the alarm call. As soon as it goes off, DPD, possible corruption, is coming.
Right.
To the club he's associated with. And so like everybody goes, and like we're the last one. He says when I pull these plugs, he said, you take off. He said, we got to get out of here. And we did and got out, and we were not compromised. And that part of it was a good case, but man.
That is a wild case. And I remember our Chief Ben Click, he was our chief at the time. And, you know, and seeing on that documentary that him doing the press conference. And, yeah, it was, I mean, there's no agency, state, federal, tiny cities that are as immune to stuff like this. And
sure.
But it was a high profile deal just because of the people that were involved. It was, you had a Dallas police officer, and then you had a superstar, you know, Hall of Fame receiver. And it was just all a crazy time. But again, it's kind of like welcome to Big D.
100%. I won't go into there's another part of the story I won't go into, but we ended up having to move Calvin for security threats after that.
I believe that. Well,
yeah, it's just sad, but that's what happened.
Yeah. We'll talk offline about that. Listeners would just be jealous.
Yeah, they would. No, we'll keep them hanging. Maybe we'll come back later.
Yeah, we'll come back. Maybe.
Calvin didn't know I'm talking about this. I'm gonna call him as soon as I'm done. It's like, hey man. But anyway,
tell him I'll be polite. Hey, you tell him nobody listens to the show anyway.
There you go. Gotcha.
You know, and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, you need to have him on. We'll talk offline and tell you who he is. He's local.
I would like that.
Great dude.
I already like him. You just walked us through a ton of pure boots on the ground, hardcore street work. You transitioned to a supervisory role.
Sure.
Can you talk about how that went for you and how'd you adjust to that?
Sure. First supervisory role in Nashville, Tennessee. It actually went from Dallas here to Amarillo, Texas for about 3 years, posted duty, right? Great time out there. Rode a bunch of wires, a lot of meth. Meth hit big then, you know, Mexican meth.
What year was that?
2002 to 05. And went out there, posted duty. Great time, me and my partner. And it's a two-man posted duty. We covered 44,000 square miles of the Texas Panhandle. Great time.
That's busy.
Yeah. So get my first promotion, Nashville, Tennessee. Like, hey, that'd be a great spot, right? I had a young family, so I wanted to promote, right? But I was fairly selective where I wanted to go because I had it good. Loved Texas. I'm like, if I don't get it, so be it. But I'm not dying to promote where I'm just gonna go anywhere, right?
Well, yeah.
You know, and it worked out. Nashville's a great place. Got the job. Harry Summers was the first guy that gave me a chance. Great man. He's a mentor of mine to this day. He gave me a shot. He was our ASAC over the state, and I had a task force group. Right, that was my first group, which was good. So a task force group in DEA, you have agents and officers, right, from other departments.
Yeah, we have them. Yeah.
Yes, you do here. That's all I've ever worked in DEA. And quite frankly, task force officers are the lifeblood of DEA. We can't function without them. You just can't. And so task force group 1 in Nashville, and look. I guess your philosophies, well, I know they do, right? So you're trying to set the tone, right, of what you want your group to do. And look, I was young, man. I was 34 years old. I had dudes in there older than me. But I didn't go in there thinking I was knowing everything. I went in there and said, look, here's the kind of cases I'd like to work. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to find the largest dope dealers in here. We're going to attack them, period, in a statement. And got some buy-in. And we got after we were really good at doing Title III intercepts, right? Cell phone wire intercepts, right? That was DEA's bread and butter, and truly still is. They do more intercepts than any domestic law enforcement agency. And I always knew I had to get buy-in from the senior guy. He's a dear friend of mine to this day, Joey Mundy. He was in DEA. You call it your backup supervisor. Your backup.
It's like an ASL and SWAT.
Yeah. He's your guy. He runs it. He keeps things calm for you if it gets out of hand. And we hit it off great. We both hunters outdoors. Like I had to go to Quantico for leadership training or something before I got to Nashville, and they didn't really know me, so they sent him up there to meet me, right? To hang out with me. So we hung out, we fished some up there, and it worked great. But it's truly my first experience in leading a group of men and women, in the battle, so to speak, and took the operational tempo, established that, and really. Harry Summers, that guy, he gave me 2 principles that I live by to this day, leadership principles. He said, Clay, lead every day and manage only when you have to. And, man, I took that to heart, and it hadn't failed me since, right? And then the second one he told me is, Clay, always promote people smarter than you. Always. And I've done it every time.
Now, I'll tell you this from DPD standpoint. That has not been not right now, but that has been the norm in the past in my tenure here, and I really believe to the detriment of a organization. Some leaders won't do that because they don't want anybody outshining them and maybe look at them as a threat.
Man,
and I think that's really narrow-minded thinking.
Look, I totally agree. And look, you got to be a little confident in yourself, right? But they're going to make you look good anyway. And you're the chief. You got the job, right? Or you're the supervisor or the DEA SAC or whoever
Right.
it is. I mean, you have the job. And if you look, I tell these young officers in Hoover now, I'm like, look, man, I'm the chief here, but I'm the chief resource officer. Like, my job is to get you what you need and get out of your way and let you do your job. Like, people thrive in structure, in order, and some goals. Well, give it to them and let them roll. Right? But look, people are going to make mistakes. That's okay. Like, I've got a saying I've had a long time. Don't make a misdemeanor a felony. Right? We're going to make mistakes. We're going to learn from it. We're going to move on. It's not hard. That doesn't mean sometimes you're going to make a mistake where you got to be held a little accountable. That's a different conversation. But if they know the expectation and they know the goal and they know that you're going to be held accountable, man, it works. It's not rocket science. It works. I got off on a little tangent there, but
No, I love it. No, it's a great leadership philosophy, and I completely agree. But you set them up for success
100%.
Because as they succeed, you succeed.
The
at the
department
top.
succeeds.
Right.
I mean, everybody does. At the end of the day, our consumer is our public, right?
Right.
It's our citizens, and our job is to keep them safe. So there's no way I'm not going to do everything I can to make that happen. People seem to struggle with, and I have all these magic things in leadership. It's not hard, man.
I think it starts with being a good human at core, and then being a cop. Everything else just kind of falls in line because it's derivative of who you are as a person.
No, look, it's a great point. Look, I go back. We talked about my family life early on, just for a touch. I mean, my parents they molded me who I am. Literally.
That says a lot about them. I mean, that really, and you're very fortunate to have that love and care and guidance.
No, look, I'm very, very blessed. Look, we weren't wealthy.
Right.
Look, let me be clear. I didn't want for anything, but we weren't wealthy by any means. But I had a stable family life. There was order and discipline in my house. Back then, look, you didn't cross your dad back then. Like that did not happen. Or you could try, like, once, right? But I didn't fear my dad on the other side either, right? There's an understanding.
It was a level of respect, and I'll tell this about whenever I was out in the streets and we did a lot of wild and crazy crap. I respected the people that I worked for so much that I did not want to put them in a bad position to have to account for my actions.
Sure.
And my stupidity. And I did not want to embarrass that person because I loved and respected them that much. And I think any leader, they should have that status from their troops that I'm not going to do something so stupid. For one, to embarrass myself, but two, to embarrass this man that takes care of me every day, or man or woman that takes care of me every day, and is going to go to bat for me.
Sure. Look, I tell people, again, you have guidelines, you have directions, you have accountability. Everybody knows it is fine, but they also have to know, and you just said it, at the end of the day, you will go to the gates of hell for them, right? And they'll work for you. It's not hard. It's a team. It's a team concept. We all work. We're all in this together. We have levels of authority and seniority and supervision, and that's just how the system is set up. But at the end of the day, it's one team, man. It is one team.
It is one team, and a great leader will die on the vine for that troop that
100%.
that deserves deserves you go to bat for them.
Done it.
Yep, I believe it. We just met, and I could already tell that.
Look, there's no way. I tell them I know what I expect of my guys. They know it too. But in order for me to expect that, I got to double down, right? And if I do, it'll be fine, and I will. But I will not allow anyone to bring any discredit or any harm or any false allegation or anything to any of my officers. Like, hard stop. Period. That's my job.
We're enjoying great leadership right now with one of your good friends. I think the listener might, Danny Como.
I think they might know him by now.
They might know him a little bit. We're working on it. We're working on his image here.
If I see another picture of him on that horse, I'm just telling you. I send them to him all the time.
Hey, you know what? I got some good videos of him on the horse, and I got you. I'll be sending them to you.
I need them. You hear me? I need them.
I got you.
Great,
I got you.
Great man.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to talk about the friendship with Como.
Man, look, Danny and I have been friends for now decades, and I can tell you where it started. We always had mutual friends, always knew of each other, But golly, back in the early 2000s, well, when I first got my first supervisory job, he had just got a job in Tucson. So our careers kind of paralleled, right? I was in Nashville. He was a supervisor in Tucson. He had an informant. Man, he's a great one. I used him a long time. Great informant. And there's a money load in Nashville. And the informant knew it. It was on an 18-wheeler. And our mutual friends got us together. He's like, hey, because even in DEA, Dallas is big enough too. Look, you just don't call the duty person, right? Or just don't call anybody. Even in DEA, you got to call your guy, right? If you want it done right.
Of course.
Like you call your guy and it's going to happen. Danny called me. We laid the plan out. It's like, I got him. Send the informant to Nashville. Sent him to Nashville. Ended up taking the load off. It was like 115, 120K. Not a ton of money in our world, but a good lick. And from then on, we were just close, right? He's from Louisiana. I'm from Louisiana. We've got that whole background going. He's New Orleans. I was Baton Rouge. Grew up, and man, just became close. And then through our careers, we kind of went to headquarters at the same time. I was a little before him. I got out a little before Danny, and I got out from everybody in DEA goes to you go play the piper in DC whether you want to or not. And I got out to.
What was that like going to DC?
Oh man. Look, you got to go, right? It's a countdown clock. It's a math problem. Like, when your number's going to pop, and then you just try to get yourself in a good spot, right? Where you can fade it. DEA's got some offsite offices where you don't have to go to the main building in DC, it's in Arlington, right by the Pentagon. So I was lucky enough to get to an offsite office. Thank goodness. It beats the beat down commute. I had a beat down commute just the other way, but it was not right. To go downtown. And brutal, man. Look, I'm a Southern guy, right? Like Virginia, God bless you all up there, but we can talk about the Mason-Dixon line for a lot if you'd like to. It was different. The schools were different. I had certain, look, I had a certain standard. We're a Christian family. Our kids, what we do, how we raise them was a lot different than a lot of other kids. And that's okay. People are different, but we have our values, and that's what we believe in, right? And sometimes they didn't align with most of the people around us.
Right.
So it was really 2 long years for us, and got the chance. I was in our office of investigative technology, right? And I'm not a tech guy by any stretch of the imagination, but they needed operational people in the tech division because look, we had a building full of smart people, right? Like, but I mean, they wouldn't speak to you when you pass them in the hall because that's just not how they're made. Yeah. So you had to put some operational stuff. Like when I got there, I was astounded by what I saw that no one in the field knew they could do, right? Because it just didn't. It didn't.
They never
work.
done it. Yeah.
They've never done it, right?
Sometimes you gotta get to the office.
Yeah, no, right? Yeah, holy smokes, and speak to people. Truly a great assignment for me because I learned a world about technology. I was in y'all's fusion center yesterday, and I was talking to one of your sergeants there, and looking at, I know enough to be dangerous, right? I know enough to speak the lingo a little bit, which I know a little about a lot of things. It's deadly, and great assignment for me. But I was ready to get out, man. That wasn't, traffic, brutal life, and get my kids back to the South, and Birmingham come open. SAC called me. I had a buddy call me and said, hey, you interested in Birmingham? I said, absolutely. Called the SAC then, who's in New Orleans. We had a conversation, got the job. Shortly thereafter, Danny got the job in Mississippi. So I was over Alabama for DEA. Danny was over Mississippi for Alabama. And Dave, after that, was over, Dave Downing, was over Arkansas.
Man, what a triangle there.
Man, look, that's truly some of the best times and worst at one point I had in DEAs with those guys. Literally, because we're all very operational minded, operationally focused.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like, let's get after it.
That's what Como's brought here. I mean, we got more operations in a short amount of time. Yeah. They're putting, but his bottom line is put bad people in jail because you put bad people in jail, it at least gives that part of town some reprieve from those bad people.
Absolutely. Look, as we all know, there's a small subset that keeps repeating all the crimes. Like,
of course,
it's funny. I told Hoover, I tell everybody, look, attack crime. Like, we attack crime. And I know we speak the same language, me and Chief Como. Like, we don't play defense. Like, play offense. Like, get after it. Make them feel uncomfortable. Like, I can talk to you about constitutional policing and, because I'm in a suburb, right? Look, thank the good Lord, we don't have a ton of crime. We're surrounded by some places that have high crime. So we
you need a lot of bleed over. It's like
do.
Garland and Mesquite here.
That's what we do. No, it's 100. It's exactly like that, right? And I'm like, hey, man, we're not sitting back. Like, I need blue lights on the side of the road. They need to know. And I said, look, we can be proactive and be constitutional policing, right? And there's only one group of people that's going to know it, that we're getting after it. And they look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, look, it's the criminals. That's going to know. No one else will know because we're targeting the subset of people we need to target that are wreaking havoc, causing people to be afraid or scared. And quite frankly, it's an economic issue, right? in many places, because public safety is normal. People come here to be safe. Anyway, sorry, I got off on that tangent.
No, I love it. And talking to you and talking to Como are like, you're brothers, obviously, in more ways than one. So
we've been called that by many folks before.
I can see why. And he I don't know the story, but he talked about this, about a hard time he went through, and you being his brother.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, man. So look, I won't go into the crazy details of it, but he was having a hard time personally and professionally. Some, I was having a hard time professionally. Both of us had a hard time. And look, you talk about getting emotional a while ago. I'll get emotional. That's how much I think about the guy. I mean, we talk to each other every day for over a year, and didn't skip a beat. I mean, back then your phone would pop up like your favorites, like on by how many people you talk to, right? And I was on top of his, and he was on top of mine. But that's what you do. I mean, that's my guy. I wouldn't have made it through that time without him. Period.
It doesn't sound like he would have made it through that time without you.
I would tend to think not. Look, I'm not going to be arrogant and say I did, but I would tend to think not. That's how much I care about him. And I know very specifically what he was going through. I mean, he knows about my children. I know about his children. Blake just graduated law school. I used to listen to Blake's football games, and I'd watch him on the internet on Friday nights. Because Danny just got to L.A., and sometimes he couldn't get back, and I would be texting him through the games watching Blake. I mean, that's what friends do.
That's what brothers do.
100%. Even better.
Yes. I can see how much this means to you, and how much he means to you, how much his family means to you. Him telling me that you got him through some of his hardest times, how much is that?
That means the world. Means the world. Means everything to me. When I'm telling you, hard times. So, like, my kids know. Like, if I'm on the phone, they're like, "You talking to Danny?" Yeah, especially back then. Right now, they're out of the house now, but look, they know Danny. I tell you what, Danny. So you had your officers killed in 2016, right?
Yeah.
We had them killed. Baton Rouge is my home. Worked for East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office. My brother retired from there. Same thing happened there a few days later, right?
Absolutely.
Well, right after, we can talk about that, but right after that is historic floods hit Baton Rouge.
Yes, that's right.
And my brother, he was the chief operations kind of for the Sheriff's Office, number 3 guy there, East Baton Rouge Parish. And that's a big department. Louisiana, it's the second largest Sheriff's Office in Louisiana. And he went from, running all the rescue operations, rescuing people from flooded homes, to him having to get rescued from his house finally. Right? Finally. It was the last one. He lives in a 1,000-year floodplain and his house flooded. That's how bad it was.
Oh, wow.
Right? And house flooded. And that wasn't bad. But it doesn't matter. 2 inches or 5 feet. It's the same problem, with your house. If it gets in there, that's a wrap. And so I go down there and help him clean, tear out his house. And, one day we're down there. Actually, I had left. But one day, Danny Como shows up to my brother's house to help. I mean, that's just what, like you said, that's what brothers do. He come to my brother's house. Didn't have to. He was in Mississippi at the time. But he went down there helping out. Everybody mobilized to help, even the DEA. But he showed up at my brother's house.
I'm a big believer, and part of this doing this show is you can call it whatever you want, humanizing the badge, and bridging divides, or whatever you want to call it. I like to highlight good human beings that people never see.
Sure.
You see, you've been in a position to see. Y'all are both highly successful at your jobs, obviously, and your personal lives, and you're at the top of your games. But a lot of the people that are on the outside looking in, they always want to point out negative things, right?
Sure.
But that's why I love to highlight these kind of stories. Go beyond a 10-second video you can watch of an officer playing basketball in uniform with a group of kids. This is real. It's impactful.
What is funny, as we talked before we started, I said, when Danny would apply for this job, we were talking, it was, he was keeping it very quiet, right? And as I told you before, I said, if they'll just look, we can talk about being the Fed. I get it, man. I've been the outsider, right? You're the Fed. You're coming in. You're not from here. I said, if they just give him half a chance, this will work out just fine. And look, and as we said, you're not always going to make everybody happy. I get it. Not everyone's going to like all your decisions. That's so be it. But you got to look at the man himself, right? As you just said, forget he's a chief. Let's look at Danny Como as Danny Como, the man, the husband, the father, the friend, the brother. And if you look at that and then you put the chief label back on top of him, you know you got a guy that's going to do just fine if you give him a shot.
And you know he's a guy that's going to not only lead from the front, but pick up his sword and fight
Let's go.
for you.
That's right. Let's get to it.
I want to get into we're talking about chief positions and moving up.
Sure.
You start with Pell City.
I did.
Can you tell us about that?
Man, look, Pell City was a great smaller department to get back into what I call real policing, right? So, look, again, the feds, we have our knocks, right? But I think and Danny and I have talked about this a lot. I can't speak for the other feds, but I can speak for DEA. Like, if you've got a guy that's been through the executive side of DEA, that's got some law enforcement background before DEA, that guy, if he's done the job right at DEA, he can come in and be a great chief. He can. We've now got several examples, and hopefully it kind of turns the tides the way people think about, I'm going to say DEA feds, I won't speak for everybody else. But DEA is really at its core, it's very blue collar, right?
You have more operational,
yes,
yeah, than most other federal agencies.
Yeah, we're just not copying your reports and sending them to get federal prosecution, right? We're doing investigations. We're in the streets with you, and look, I mean, sometimes it gets dicey in what we do, right? And so you have that aspect of how to lead through those times, right? You know how to lead operations. You know how to lead investigations. You know how to lead people. You know how to lead programs, budgeting, administration. It works, right? So look. A lot of times it doesn't matter if you're a true leader and you've got the experience, because experience matters, it doesn't matter what the widget is, right? You work around the widget. The widget stays the same, but you apply your principles and you scale them up and down. When I went to Pell City, 52 officers, right? That's a retirement job. Lake community, outskirts of Birmingham metro area. A friend of mine was president of the city council. Chief Spot come over and said, hey, need some help here, got an opportunity. Said, hey, retired, salary matters. Right, of
course.
Quite frankly,
yeah.
Look, and we worked through it. And I've told people at Hoover, best thing I ever did. Went to apartment, changed a lot, had to get it modernized. Changed. I mean, we did a lot. Brought on another gentleman from DEA as assistant chief. He was supervisor at DEA. He's been one of my guys from. Danny knows Chief Como knows him. Mm-hmm. Been one of my guys. Brought him to Hoover, and look. I think they will tell you, and I think, look, not certainly bragging, but we transformed the department. We instilled our vision, our values, our expectations, our operational tempo, and went from the ground up. And it got me back into law enforcement at a city level, right?
Right.
And look, it's a different beast.
Yeah.
But I had the background and experience where I can it's a different widget, right? I applied those to the widget, and it works.
And it goes back to your experiences and who you are at core.
It does. No, I agree with that.
Well,
absolutely.
And it sounds like you did another good thing is getting somebody in you trusted to help you transform.
Listen to me. A lot of people. So that's the argument in certainly large departments like Dallas. Do you pick the insider or do you go outside? And I think you see now. I think there's an argument to be made for going outside because you have a total different perspective, right?
Well, you don't walk in the door with a lot of favors owed.
You don't have loyalties.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know people. Look, you got to rapidly figure out who your workhorses are, right?
Yeah.
And those whose values and ideas and philosophies align with yours, and then you make your team and you rock and roll.
Absolutely.
But look, obviously, I'm a proponent from outside the agency because I've done it. But I certainly understand if you hire from within. I mean, I get it, right? And look,
it's worked both ways.
It does,
yeah.
right? And look, people in command staff here, they get upset because they've maybe been passed over, right? I understand that too. Let the best man win at some point.
Or look at it as like, work harder and my time will come, right?
No,
and
look, 100% agree. Look, and this is not Dallas, just because you have rank in any department, just because you're there doesn't mean you deserve the next step.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I can show you in my background where I've succeeded. Not that I'm better than anybody else. I am not. I'm just stubborn and I work hard. My dad instilled a work ethic in me, right? And my brother's the same way. He's crazier than I am. So I'll say that, publicly on your podcast. Mm-hmm. But hey, he's been a mentor of mine. That dude's worked some crazy, serial killer cases, and I mean, look, he's a known in Louisiana. But it's just hard work, right? Roll up your sleeves, let's get to it.
People that know that listen to this show, that they know my rank. I'm a slick sleeve, and
sure.
I've said here, and I have seen great supervisors. I've seen very poor supervisors, and I've seen people at my level, which is down at the bottom rank wise, how they respond to both.
Sure. Well, it's funny you say that because look, everyone knows in every agency, no matter whether it's Dallas Police, DEA, Hoover Police, anywhere, you know the guys who have promoted through the ranks because of their work ethic, their knowledge, their integrity, and just flat out getting after it, right? And then you know the guys that haven't.
Chief, you cut your teeth at Pell City.
I did.
And being big boss at a state level, and now you're at a different role. Can you walk us through that?
Sure. So, obviously, Chief of Police of Hoover now, Hoover, Alabama. It's the largest suburb outside of Birmingham. So, city's about 98,000 people. So, 200 officers or so ish, about 240 total staff. So, not nice mid-sized department.
I would liken it to probably maybe like Garland and Mesquite in the Dallas suburb. Is
It
that
is
similar?
A touch more like Plano, not as big,
Okay.
but touch more like Plano for sure. But it's not as big yet. Great opportunity. The previous chief, friend of mine, he is now the mayor. He decided he was going to run for mayor. He was a chief for almost 21 years.
Wow, that's
an anomaly. Never happens anywhere.
No, that is rare.
Yeah, no, it is rare. Great guy, great friend of mine, great chief. Honestly, I've told people he'll be a better mayor. He has literally invested 40-something years of his life for the city of Hoover, and now he's the mayor.
They're going to have a statue of him before it's all over with.
Look, I'm telling him it's the Nick Durz's public safety building. That's what I'm pushing for.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So got an opportunity there, applied, was selected. Again, it's the conversation we just talked about. They had internal candidates there apply, went through the selection process and was selected. The great guys, they still work there. They're in the command staff, and was fortunate to be selected. And great opportunity. Hoover, the department has always been known as one of the premier departments in Alabama, and some would argue some of the Southeast. Always had the best equipment, technologies, officers. Always had lines of officers to pick from there. That's changed a touch, just as everywhere else has. Have a very high standard. The chief mayor, as we call him now, instituted years ago. Our values are very similar to kind of like Chief Como's. It's a standard of excellence there, and that's what I've instilled everywhere I've been, and we're going to keep that going at Hoover. But there is a standard that we expect our officers to perform at, and if we don't think you're going to make that level, you're not going to get hired there at Hoover. And that's been instilled since he's been the chief 20 years ago, and we're going to keep that rolling. As I told him, I said, look, man, we had the conversation. I said, look, you're going to be on the third floor. You got to let me run the department, man. You got to, right? And to his credit, and I know it's not easy because he loved being a chief and was there a long time. It was very successful.
Over 2 decades, yeah.
I mean, very successful. And to his credit, he's allowed me to do that. To his credit, because I've made some changes he didn't necessarily like, but he was fine with it. And it was minor, very minor stuff, like something we did on the new patrol cars. But he said, your choice, roll with it, So he's been very, very supportive. He'll be very good for the department. The department went under some hard times in the previous administration, just with truly defunding.
Yeah.
Lack of support, lack of equipment, vehicles. We're behind. We rapidly caught up in the last 4 or 5 months with Chief Mayor, and we're actually when I go home, literally next week we start on next year's budget, just budget prep time, and we've got the list, and he's aware of our needs, and he'll be supportive. It's a good spot, great spot, great department.
Well, yeah. If you got somebody that ran a department for over 2 decades, and now they're the mayor of that city. I mean, that is a great recipe for continuing and progressing a department in a city.
Sure. It's funny. That's what I told him. I said, look, I'm not here to change what you're done. I'm here to build on it. Right. I said, I'm fixing to put jet fuel on it. We're fixing to get after it.
I love that.
And look, it's Hoover. Look, it's no credit to mine. I am blessed to have the job. They have always been known as one of the best. And look, that's on the flip side of that, you got to keep it going that way, right? From my the pressures of the job, so to speak, but great personnel, great. What I'm telling you, high quality candidates and officers, high quality officers that are there.
All right, I'm gonna give you this opportunity. So usually we're out here shilling for DPD. Why to come to DPD? And and Chief Como, please turn the radio off for a second.
Yeah, he's gonna be all right. He's going to Gillies in a cowboy hat. He's gonna be fine.
Yeah, I'll get pictures of that. Maybe he'll ride a horse in there too.
Please do.
Okay. Chief, I want you to speak to some potential candidates there and why they should come to Hoover, Alabama.
So look, if you're in the Southeast in the Alabama area or anywhere surrounding, the Hoover Police Department, look us up. We are known as a standard of excellence. We're going to have the best pay, the best benefits. You're going to have a command staff, a mayor, and a city council that supports you, which matters in today's times, which is going to invest in you. We're going to prepare you to be the future leaders of our department, right? If you want to come into a place where we have the best equipment, the best technology, the best officers, the most camaraderie, and we're going to invest in you personally and care about you and bring you into our family, that's the place for you to be. You're not going to beat our salary. You're not going to beat our benefits anywhere in the Southeast. Now, look, we can't compare to Dallas. It's different. It's a different animal when you come to Texas. But if you're in the true Southeast and you're a Southern guy, call me. We got you.
Having support from the top down, and now you got it from even a higher level with the mayor that understands everything that you're doing and everything that officers are going through, that is invaluable.
No, sure, it's funny because as I was upstairs in the Fusion Center talking to your drone guys, right? So Hoover's had DFR for a couple of years now. Now we don't have the whole city covered yet, but we're on the kind of the forefront of that in Alabama, right? And so look, I've told the command staff, and I've met with you can't do it in Dallas, right? But there I met with every officer since I've been there, and it takes a hot minute to get it done, but it's worth its weight in gold, right? I've learned so much about the department and about the perceptions and what's reality and the needs and where we need to go. It is invaluable. Like to kill me, we got it done. I got it done literally last week, and I've told them and I've told the command staff, look, I got a list y'all hadn't seen yet of the things I want to do here, because I want to expand on everything that Chief Mayor's done, and I want to take it all to the next level and just stand by. Because look, I told him, I said, you're gonna kill me, but because I'm coming with some funding requests, but you got to back them. And we're going to we're going to continue this thing into the next century, and it'll be like no other department around there for sure.
That's amazing. We'll be watching from Dallas, and I'm going to enjoy continuing our friendship.
Absolutely.
And you told me something a while ago before we even start recording that you want to put the pedal down on officer wellness, yes. and anybody knows me knows how passionate I am about this, and also I know how passionate Chief Coleman is you invest in your people that are out there doing the work for your city and for your administration, and the citizens deserve that and the officers deserve that, because we want them to do a great long career and walk away with mind and heart and soul intact.
Absolutely. It was funny. Even Hoover, before I got we have a behavioral health specialist position in the police department, right? Which is really not heard of in the South at departments our size, right? Mid-sized departments. We have that there, and we're creating our wellness program. It's like I told him, I was great. I'm coming here today so I can see what y'all do and get some behind the scenes for some other ideas. But again, if we're true to who we say we are, right? So I'm new to Hoover. I've told the officers this. I'm new to Hoover, but in totality of my career, I'm still at the end of my career. I may have 10 years left, but I'm still toward the end of my career. I just want to make something better. I don't have any, like we said earlier, I have the job, right? I'm not fighting for the job. I have the job. So let me use the position to make the department better. Make it build on the foundation the Chief Mayor started. And man, I like jet fuel. Like, let's go. Look, I tell people all the time it's a curse, right? Because I move at a different pace. I move at a fast pace, like my hair's on fire constantly. It is a curse, but it's how I'm wired. I can't not be busy. Like, let's get to it.
You wouldn't have it the other way, it doesn't sound like.
No, I can't. My wife, she'd tell you in a second. I'm my own worst enemy.
Well, speaking of that, behind every successful man or woman,
sure,
there is a home life, and there is support. They're at home, and that grounds you.
Yeah.
Can you talk about your family real quick?
Yeah, man, I'm glad. Look, I was going to ask you to do that. I appreciate the opportunity. So, yeah, great. Look, my wife is Bridget. We'll be married, 29 years this year. Met her here in Dallas. Married 29 years. She is literally the reason of my success, right? And I'm not naive enough to know it. I tell people all the time, I said, if Bridget speaks, you better listen. I tell people in the community that. I was like, if she says something, you need to listen to her. She has great wisdom. And she is why we have 3 great children that are successful now. It's a funny story. Like last night, our middle son, Griffin, packed his truck, and he's moving to Austin, Texas. He graduated from Auburn 2 weeks ago. Starting his job, got a job in Austin. And so he's got a wedding this week in Auburn, but he packed up and he left last night. And he left. And he's getting married in September. And I didn't realize the gravity of that till I'm sitting across the street last night talking to my wife. and it just hit different because he's our middle child. Our oldest son, he moved to Memphis 3 years ago, working, but that's close, right? He comes home and he's not engaged. Griffin left last night, not coming back, getting married in September, 11 hours away in Austin. Man, it hit different. Hit different. I was very surprised last night. But between me and my wife both, right? And he put all these kids are in social media, and he's in marketing. That's his finance degree, going into marketing for Poncho Outdoors, Poncho shirts. It's great opportunity for him. Great company. And he put an Instagram post on a picture of our house and our dog sitting in front, and said, "Till next time." Man, whew. I was like, holy smokes. I did not expect the visceral reaction that I got, my wife got, when he drove off yesterday. I talked to her late last night from the hotel room across the street.
I'm a father. 12-year-old daughter.
Yeah. I got one, 13. So I'll go from 26. Well, that's why I hadn't got there yet, because I got off on that tangent. Oldest son's 26. He's in the outdoor industry, community marketing manager for Shin Gear. Look them up. If you're a hunter, look up their gear. You're not going to find any better. They're based in Memphis. Started out in water. They're big in the waterfowl industry. My oldest, he was, funny side note, he fished competitively through high school and college. He got scholarship for college for bass fishing.
Wow. That's amazing.
He won 2 national championships in high school, him and his partner. For Bass Nation, the organization, won 2 national championships in high school, won 3 school of the years in college with the school. Very high, uber successful in that world. God-given talent to catch fish. I can't do it. He does. When he won his last school of the year for his school, his senior year, he already was working for a company that was sponsoring him, started to work for them. He said, "I retired, I'm done." And now he gets the itch. He gets the itch bad. Still got his boat. I keep it in the garage because he doesn't have one in Memphis, and it hits him hard because when I'm telling you, this kid is 25 years old, about to be 26. I told you to do the first part. They asked him to do a podcast last week. I'll show it. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please.
He's hooked, man. When I'm telling you, everybody in the outdoor industry knows him. Hooked. And
it's amazing.
And good for him, man.
No, great. Well, good. Great for you and your wife.
Yeah,
that is your legacy. That's your legacy.
Look, he is uber successful already at a young age. When I'm telling you, knows everybody in that space, and they know him. Hard work ethic. These people talk about their kids in that generation. They don't work. Like, we see them in young officers, right? Not want to work overtime, do some things. Dude's got a work ethic, and makes me proud. Griffin, same way. He's going to kill it with Poncho Outdoors. He was his fraternity president. And we're not fraternity people. He was first generation, Greek person. That's just not what we come from.
Mm-hmm.
A little different farmhouse fraternity. Shout out to Farmhouse at Auburn. Auburn was a great ride for him. 4 years. Man, that dude did everything. And he is known already. He's established himself in the marketing world, in the outdoor industry. Mossy Oak Camouflage, intern with them. And if you're a hunter, you don't get any bigger than that.
And he's going to our capital.
He's going to your capital for Poncho Outdoors. Yeah.
So you talked about your oldest. You talked about the middle. And then you talk about a 13-year-old.
I do. That's my daughter.
Tell us that story.
Raylan, man, she's awesome. So Raylan, I go from 25 to 13, and Raylan is truly a gift from God. Truly. Look, blesses us more every day than we bless her. I went from boys to pink and a girl, right? Like, holy smokes, is there a difference, right?
Huge difference. I mean, I only know one, but it's being a girl dad.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, and look, Raylan is, man, and she's in 7th grade going into 8th grade. Middle school is brutal for girls. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's unbelievable. I like girls, but y'all got to be nice. Like, I've had middle school boys, right? And it's the same issues, but not near as bad as girls. Like, y'all be nice to each other. This is all gonna work out by 9th grade. Stop, right? So she's in the throes of that, working through it. Some great days, some not great days. But when I'm telling you, she is the apple of our eye, 100%. Right? She is. I'll move heaven and earth for her, literally, like you would for all your kids, right? But when you go from 26 and 2 boys to 13 and a girl, it's a big difference, right? Like we're the old parents. Like we're old.
Well, I'm right there with you. It makes you appreciate time.
Yeah. No, 100%. Like I'll tell you a story offline about it. But Raylan is truly God's gift to our family, without without question.
Sounds like you're a gift to her.
Yeah.
And now you and your wife have a new project.
Yes.
You have a city, an apartment to run, but you have a great new project, and you have success stories with her two brothers.
That's that's a testament to my wife. I'm just telling you. When I'm telling you, she is wise. If she speaks, you better listen. If you don't, you're crazy. And her full-time job, look, we were blessed where she stayed at home. Right? She works some part-time jobs here off and on. Helped at school. She tutors kids in Spanish now. She was able to stay at home, and our children thrived in it. And she's the reason that they're successful, hands down, without question. She thinks I don't tell people that all the time. I was like, you're crazy. You don't know what I say to people. So now she's got a recording where she can hear it. Look, I've been very, very blessed. And look, man, kids spell love Time. People forget that.
Yes. And I'm glad you said that, because in this profession, whether it's DPD or it's DEA or it's Hoover PD, it takes time away, but you have to be so intentional.
That's where I was headed.
Replacing it.
That's the word I was headed to. You have to have intentionality. You have to be intentional. If you don't, you lose. And you have to be intentional with structure, with time, with activities, with family events, right? Look, man, like dinner time around the table matters. And you put your phone down and you eat and you just talk. I can't tell you how many times me and our boys, as they were older, high school into college, we'd get through eating and we would just be sitting at the table laughing and talking. Just life, right? Those times, one, are invaluable as a parent, and two, it's invaluable in how you raise your children and how they're going to raise their children. I mean, we're in the industry, right? We see failed families, and we see generational failed families.
Yes.
And it's unfortunate, man. Just invest in kids. Look, kids are my weak spot, man. They truly are. My kids especially, but kids in general, they're my weak spot. Look, our future, truly, it's cliche. Our future depends on it, man. Like, we got to help. In today's world is so different than when my older kids were coming up. It's certainly when we were coming up. It's a different world these kids live in, and man, evil lurks around every corner.
We're the guardians of our future, and our kids are our future, and we're planting trees that we won't see the shade of.
Yep, without question.
We need to take care of those.
Absolutely. Look, it's to go back to them, because I want to make sure they'll listen to it. I'm so proud of them. I can't hardly put it to words. That's how proud I am of them. They mean, look, my wife, my kids, they mean the world to me. People ask me what my hobbies are. I've done a ton of interviews since I got to Hoover. I was like, well, my hobbies are, I like to hunt and fish in the outdoors a little bit, and I spend time with my family, period. That's what we do.
That's the most important.
Absolutely.
That's what grounds you to be able to do the job you have to do to represent and lead others. But your priority is clearly them.
It's without a question them. And it's hard, man. I tell people all the time, it's hard. You got to work at it. Like, if my priorities in life are the good Lord above, my wife, my kids, and my job, so my job's number 4. And I work hard, right? But that's the priority. And if you have those aligned, and you be intentional, and you put the work in, they all four be successful. Like, people probably think, look, I've had good success by hard work only. Not that I'm no better than anybody else, but I've been fairly successful. They would probably think my job's my number 1 priority, and it's not. I just go to bed dog tired every night.
The listener just went a long journey of you growing up in Louisiana, getting into law enforcement, almost being built and made for the law enforcement profession. Looking back at all the experiences you had as a street cop, and now as an agent, now as a leader. You and I are both in Act 3 of our career in our life, and I want to ask you this. How do you want to be remembered most?
Kind of dual purpose here. As the best dad and father and husband I could ever be, and the guy that laid it all out on the field and fiercely protected those he worked with. Nothing left in the tank when I'm done.